think my hair's bad, you should see the guy from Snow White and the Huntsman. It's looking pretty good about now. Snow White and the Huntsman. Okay, so the plot of Snow White and the Huntsman is the traditional Snow White story that most of us have grown up and know, but it's got a more edgier, darker tone and catered for an older audience. But for those of you who don't know, it basically follows the story of a young princess who has to escape from an evil witch who is trying to steal her heart so she can regain youth for all eternity. Now, I was really looking forward to this movie. I was following the trailers, I was following the set production, I was following just about pretty much everything about it. And you know what, was it good? Not really. I'll start off with some positives though first. It maintained a very consistent and dark tone, and this is a film that kept its level of dark tone and maturity. I mean, Tim Burton tried to create a darker Alice in Wonderland and failed on that, but this manages to contain its dark nature, and it's a really strong asset to it. It reminded me a lot of an actual game called Alice Madness Returns, which is a fairly dark fairy tale game. Another thing that was great as well was the visuals. I mean, especially when she was in the dark forest and the forest is coming alive and there's trolls and stuff like that. And it wasn't just the visual effects that were exciting. I mean, the cinematography was lovely as well. I mean, all the shots were framed quite nicely. It had a lovely colour structure, kept the dark tones but never too dark. And the set pieces as well, when they came along, were great. I mean, there was a really fantastic sequence with the troll. The end sequence was pretty exciting as well, and there's little bits in between that were, you know, oomph in the film a bit. And as the cast goes along, Charlize Theron, or I guess it's Charlize Theron, she manages to practically steal the show. I mean, she is fantastic in her role, absolutely fantastic. I mean, it's never too pantomime, and she manages to keep a real human nature to her character, which is really important with villains in films, because you can overplay them. Like I said in my last review, Men in Black 3, the villain, he was overplayed and he was over-exaggerated. But Mrs. Theron, oh god, that sounds really weird. But Charlize manages to keep it really consistent throughout, and she manages to keep a really strong performance and one of the best villains of the year so far. But as the cast goes, she was really the only great thing about it. I mean, there was no chemistry between the other characters, especially since the film's called Snow White and the Huntsman. You need some chemistry between those two characters, and I love Kristen Stewart. I think she's a really good actress. I have no problem with the Twilight films or any of the films that she's been in. I think she's great. And Chris Hemsworth I love as well. I think he's the main reason that Thor's my favourite Avenger. He just manages to bring something to that role which I don't think many other people could. I mean, they didn't really gel and become this duo that you expected from a film called Snow White and the Huntsman, and they kind of just, it felt kind of wooden. And that made the whole film a bit boring really, when you can't really connect with the characters emotionally. And the narrative structure of the film was basically like a heart monitor. I mean, it was just... And it was so long as well, it felt so long. I mean, in those peaks, they were so far and few between. It just really, you were just glad that something exciting was happening for a change. I mean, after the forest, they don't really do much. They go to they go to the dwarfs, they go to some fairy village, they go to some lesbian camp of some sort. They're not really lesbians, it's just a camp full of women. And the narrative is too contrived as well. I mean, there's so many situations where there'll be an obstacle, and there'll just be an object or a character there that'll just fix the obstacle immediately. And it was so obvious as well, just so obvious. Like, there's a scene where she's trying to escape from the castle, and she gets, right at the beginning, it's no spoilers, and she gets out onto the beach with nowhere to go, but there just happens to be a horse there. I mean, I don't know about you, but I've never walked out of a cave and just saw a horse or any animal, just maybe a bird. I would imagine if there was a bird there, that'd be fine, you know. Maybe she could ride the really small bird in this fantasy world, but no, there was a fully grown white horse, and it seemed like there was a really interesting and visually exciting world with so many different characters, monsters, mythical things, and they were just kind of brushed past, and you never got a chance to really interact with the world and see how these things are and how they are within the world. And I understand it's through Snow White's eyes, so you're just seeing everything from the first time like she is, because she's been locked away for a long time. But it seems like it's such a missed opportunity because there's such a vibrant world here. And it just reminds me of like a theme park, dark ride or something. You know, on a ride when you go through and it's like, oh, would you look at that? Oh no, here we go. And because nothing was really explained in this world, the plot wasn't really explained really clearly as well. I mean, I know most people know the Snow White story and they've grown up with it, but for people who are unfamiliar, this is a really just a cold film for them. It never really explains some of the character development or some of how the plot turns at times for people who don't know the story. All in all, I was quite disappointed with this film. It seemed like there's a good film line in there, but it's just wrapped up in so many contrived situations and just a dull, boring narrative, so to speak. It just doesn't really have anything much to redeem it by. But that said, it has some visually exciting pieces, and it's not a complete train wreck, so I'm going to give it 2 out of 5 stars. And as usual, if you want to subscribe, just click right here to subscribe.
Let them come.